Hello there. In the last episode, we understood why Oracle Integration Cloud is a must when connecting Oracle Fusion with third party applications. Today, we are taking it a step further. I'm going to show you how to build your first OIC integration from scratch. We will walk through a real world example, then design the integration step by step from getting a free OIC instance to building the integration, and finally on how to export our integration for deployment into another environment. We will cover the whole 9 yards. By the end of this video, you will have all the basics that you need to build any OIC integration with confidence. If you are just interested in a specific OIC topic, check the description for timestamps and direct links. I'm SivaKoya, an Oracle ACE and Certified Integration Professional. Thank you for tuning into Oracle Cloud ERP channel. Ready to dive into the world of Oracle Integration Cloud? Let's get started. Before we jump into building the OIC integration, let me quickly walk you through the real world use case that we will be working on. Suppose in your company, suppliers are created and managed in non-Fusion ERP application like ServiceNow, while Oracle Fusion is used for purchasing. In this scenario, you need to replicate suppliers in Oracle Fusion Cloud in real time. Instead of manual entry of supplier information in Oracle Fusion, ServiceNow can programmatically automate the supplier creation process in Oracle Fusion by calling the Oracle Fusion Cloud API called Create Supplier. While you can call Fusion APIs directly, as discussed in previous episode, it is less secure and not very flexible solution. In this demo, we will follow Oracle's recommended approach using OIC as a middle layer. ServiceNow calls OIC and OIC handles supplier creation in Fusion. We are using OIC as a middle layer in our use case because we have a special requirement. In case of an integration failure, ServiceNow need custom error responses with specific error codes. Since we can't change the responses from Fusion directly, we are using OIC as a middle layer to transform them. Here is how we will do it. First, we will sign up for a free Oracle Cloud account if you haven't done it before. Next, we will set up OIC instance on Oracle Cloud. After that, we will create connections in OIC to link ServiceNow and Oracle Fusion applications. Then we will develop OIC integration from scratch with custom error handling. And finally, we will test our integration and export it. Let's tackle these steps one by one. Head over to oracle.com/cloud and click on Try OCI for free. If you are a first-time user, just complete the registration process using this link. And once you complete the registration, you will receive $300 cloud credit. This is more than enough to get our feet wet with Oracle Integration Cloud. Once you have logged into your free trial or paid OCI account as OCI administrator, from the main menu, go to Developer Services. Then under Application Integration, you will see Integration option. Select it. Now we are going to create a new OIC instance by clicking on Create Instance. Let's give a name to our OIC instance. I will keep the default Enterprise Edition. Since we are just getting our feet wet on OIC, I will select the shape as development. I will not touch anything else. I'll go ahead and click Create to create our new OIC instance. After a few seconds, our OIC instance will appear right here. After a good 10 minutes, my OIC instance is up and running. To access the user interface of our OIC instance, we have to click on our OIC instance hyperlink. Under links section, you will see design time URL. Let's copy it. Now let's open a new browser tab and we will paste our design time URL. After a few seconds, the homepage of our Oracle Integration Cloud will show up. When I created the OIC instance in the previous step, I did it using an OCI administrator account. In Oracle Cloud, security is managed by assigning users to groups, and those groups are linked to specific application roles that define access levels. Since the OCI admin has access to all cloud services within Oracle Cloud, we will not use it for OIC development work. Instead, I will create a custom user group, assign it the OIC Service Developer Application role, and add my user to that group. This way, my user account gets just the right access needed to start building OIC integrations. Let's do that. To create an OIC developer group for access control, go to Main menu, click on Identity and Security, then select Domains, open the default domain, then go to User Management tab. Under the Group section, click Create Group. Let's give a name to our group. Finally, click on the Create button to create our new OCI group. As you can see here, our group is successfully created. To assign the OIC developer role to our group, from this menu, go to Oracle Cloud Services and then select your OIC instance hyperlink. You will notice the name of your OIC instance in the beginning. Click on it. Then go to Application Roles tab. Here you can see all the security roles available in Oracle Integration Cloud. Since we want to assign the OIC developer role to our user group, find the service developer role, click its menu and choose Manage Groups. Click on Assign Groups button and select our custom group and finally assign the group. I will close the page. With this, we have successfully created a custom user group and assigned it the OIC developer role. Let me add an user to our custom user group. I will click on the back button and navigate to User Management tab. Now I will select this user that I will use to build the OIC integration in this demo. I will navigate to Groups tab, then click on Assign User to Group and select the user group that we created and select Assign User. After adding my user account to OIC developer group, I got the required access to develop OIC integration. So I will get started. I will use the link shared by the OCI admin to log in to my OIC instance using my credentials. I will click the OIC navigator in the top left. Then I will select Projects to store all artifacts associated with my new integration. To create a new project, I will click Add button in the top right. Then I will click on Create. I will give a name to our project. Checking this box will allow others to edit my project. I want to keep my project private, so I will not select this option. Finally, I will click on Create button to create our new project. As you can see here, the project that we just created acts as a single workspace for all integration components. This is where we will create our integrations, and here is where we will create connections that our integrations need. Before we can start building our integration, the very first step is to configure our connections. Let's understand why. In our use case, We want to integrate ServiceNow with Oracle Fusion using OIC. For this to work, ServiceNow needs a connection to send data into OIC. Likewise, OIC needs a connection to send data into Oracle Fusion. There are two types of connections: trigger and invoke. Trigger connection is mainly used when a third party application like ServiceNow wants to start the integration. On the other hand, invoke connection is mainly used when OIC needs to call another application during the integration flow, like calling our Fusion application. Third-party applications doesn't directly interact with these invoke connections. What do OIC provide to make these connections? That's when adapters come into play. OIC provides out-of-the-box adapters like REST, SOAP, and Fusion adapters to make these connections easy. Let's go ahead and create both trigger and invoke connections now. To create a trigger connection for ServiceNow, I will click the Add button available in the Connections section of our OIC. Since I want to expose this integration as a REST service, I will select the built-in REST adapter. Let's give a name to our connection. You would have noticed that unique identifier for our connection is automatically created based on the description that we provided. Let's change the connection role to trigger so ServiceNow can use this connection to trigger the integration. Now I will go ahead and click on the Create button to create our connection. After clicking on Create button, we land on the configuration page for our REST connection. To keep things simple, we will set the security to basic authentication, which ServiceNow will use to connect to OIC. This is the only change I will do here. I will go ahead and test our connection. I received the confirmation that my connection is successful. Now I will go ahead and save my connection. I will click on the back button to go back to my project home, where you will see the connection we just created under Connections section. Creating an invoke connection is just like creating a trigger connection, but we change the role to invoke. Let's get started. I will click Add, search for REST adapter, select it, then change the role to invoke. Now I will give a name to our invoke connection and then click on Create button. On this invoke connection page, we will enter Oracle SaaS details like host name and login credentials. If you need access to Oracle SaaS environment, I made a separate video. Link is in the description. Let me go ahead and fill my Oracle SaaS details here. Now I will go ahead and test my connection and then save. I will click the back button and you can see our invoke connection listed with a configured status. With both of our required connections ready, we can now start building the integration. Let's start creating the integration by clicking the Add button. Since we are building this integration from scratch, I will click on Create. Here I will choose the application type since we want to run our integration when ServiceNow calls it. Now I will name the integration and click Create to get started. The very first step is to select a trigger. Since we have only one, I will go ahead and select it. Let's give a name for our endpoint that ServiceNow is going to call and click Continue. This is the integration setup page where we define what data ServiceNow should send, the request format, the expected response, and the relative URI for our API endpoint. I will start by giving a relative resource URI. This will become part of our API endpoint URL. For the HTTP action, I will choose post because we will create a supplier based on the data sent by ServiceNow. Now let's allow our endpoint to accept input and send a custom response from OIC. All I need to do is check these two boxes to receive request payload and send response payload. Let's click on the continue button. Next, we will add sample request and response payloads. To get the request payload, I will go to Oracle Fusion Docs and copy the payload for our Create Supplier integration. Here I am in the Oracle Fusion Create Supplier API documentation. Now I will copy the request payload from here. I just copied the sample request payload. I will go back to my integration configuration. I will select inline and paste the request payload that I copied. I will click continue and again continue. In this configuration page, we will have to upload a sample response payload. Let's take a quick look at delivered sample response. As you can see, the default response payload is quite large. But I mentioned earlier, we will use a custom payload with just the needed fields, including custom error codes and messages. I will now go back to my integration configuration, click on inline, and this is where I will paste my custom payload. When ServiceNow calls our endpoint, this is how OIC responds. If successful, it returns the supplier name and number created in Oracle Fusion. If not, it returns an error code and message. I will now click continue. Again, I will click on continue. I will review all the details provided and then click on the finish button. In the next step, I will add a scope to handle errors gracefully during message processing. To add scope, I will hover over my arrow until I see a plus button. Once I see the plus button, I will click on it, then navigate to Actions, scroll down and select Scope. I will click on Pencil and give a meaningful name to my scope. I will now click on the check mark and save my integration. Now I will add a fault handler to the scope to define the response OIC should send to ServiceNow in case of any errors. Now I will move the default mapping into the main scope so it becomes part of the error handling flow. To do this, I will click on the three dots, choose Cut, then click the plus sign inside the main scope and select Paste. Now my map action is inside my main scope. Now I will create a few variables and assign values using the assign action. These will be used to build the success response for ServiceNow. To add assign action, I will click on the plus icon. From the actions menu, I will select assign. I will now click on the pencil icon and give a meaningful name to my assign action. Now I will create some variables by clicking the plus button and assign some default values. We are now ready to call our Fusion connection to create suppliers in Oracle Fusion using the data sent by ServiceNow application. To call the Fusion connection, I will hover over the arrow after the assign step and click the plus icon. Now I will switch to invokes connection and select Oracle ERP SaaS connection that we created earlier. Just like how we configured our trigger connection, we will configure similar parameters in this invoke configuration. We will give it a name, set a relative URI, add sample request and response payloads. I will start by giving a name to this endpoint. To fetch relative URI, I will navigate to Oracle documentation, copy the relative URI for our create supplier integration, and paste it in our integration configuration. I will change the HTTP action to post since we are creating a new supplier. I will now enable both request and response payloads for this endpoint. I will click continue and then upload both request and response payloads from Oracle website. I will now click continue and save our invoke integration configuration. Next, we will pass the values from the ServiceNow request message to the SaaS invoke connection using mapping. OIC automatically added map action when we added the invoke connection. To map values, I will click three dots available in the map action and then select edit. I am now in the mapping tool. I will expand the request sections of both trigger and invoke connections. Now I will map field values one by one from ServiceNow request to the Oracle SaaS connection to create the supplier. After mapping is completed, I will click on Validate button. I will now go back to the integration page. In the case when supplier is successfully created in Oracle ERP, now let's map the response back to the ServiceNow application. Just like before, I will click Edit on the map action. Now I will expand the response that we received from Oracle ERP. I will expand the response wrapper. Here I will map the values returned from Oracle Fusion to the response message that we plan to send to ServiceNow. Finally, I will assign the success code and description that we set earlier in the assign step to our response to ServiceNow. I will click on Validate button to validate my mappings. Now I will go back to my integration design panel. So far we have handled the success flow. Now let's set up the failure path by adding variables and mapping error codes and messages. To send the error code and message back to ServiceNow, I will add a return action from the Actions menu. Now I will map the error code and description to the ServiceNow response. Right now our integration is in draft status. To activate it, we need to set a unique business identifier. ServiceNow will send this. In our case, it's the supplier name. Let's add it by editing our integration. Now our integration status is updated to configured. To activate our integrations, click on Activate option. Let's choose tracing level as debug since we are doing for the first time, and then click on Activate button. After clicking on the refresh button, my integration is in active status. There are two ways to test our integration. One is using the built-in tester in OIC. To access it, just click the three dots to get started and then select Run option. If you navigate to Body tab, you will see the request payload we set during the trigger setup. You can manually update the test payload if needed here. All we need to do is click on the Run button at the top right to test our integration. This sends the payload to OIC just like ServiceNow application would. I won't use this method to test my integration. Instead, I will test it using an external tool, Postman. I will go to the curl tab to copy the OIC endpoint needed for testing in Postman. Let me now copy the OIC API endpoint for our create supplier integration. I'll copy it. I will now create a new test request in Postman. Set the method to post and paste the API endpoint I copied. Now I will go to the authorization tab and change the auth type to basic authentication. For the user credentials, we need to use the Oracle Cloud username and password of a user who got access to invoke our integration. I'll quickly show what I did behind the scenes. I selected my OIC instance under Identity and Security in Oracle Cloud and then navigated to Application Roles. Here I will choose Service Invoker role and select Manage Users option. Then I will click on Assign Users button. Here I will select a new user with no existing access before, and then I will click on Assign button to give him the Service Invoker role. This way, his user credentials can only be used to invoke our integration but not to modify or view our integration. I'm back in Postman application to continue our testing. I have entered the credentials of the user we just assigned the Service Invoker role in Oracle Cloud. Now I will navigate to Body tab, select raw to paste our payload. Let me copy the sample payload from my OIC instance and paste it in my Postman application. Let me quickly make some updates to this sample data to make it unique. I will send this data as if it is coming from the ServiceNow application by clicking on the Send button. Our integration was successful. We got a 200 response code and the supplier number from Oracle Fusion. I also verified in Fusion that the supplier was created successfully. Since we created this supplier through a web service, you can see creation source is populated as web service. Now I will resend the same data on purpose to test error handling. Our integration should fail since Oracle Fusion doesn't allow duplicate supplier names. I will click Send. As expected, we received 400 response code with error message. This confirms error handling is working as we designed. Now let's look at monitoring in Oracle Integration Cloud. It's simple and built right into our project. There is a dedicated tab to review all received and processed integrations. Let me show you. I am in my project and will click the Observe tab to access monitoring. Here I can see both my integration requests sent from Postman successfully. I will now click on the count. Here we can see the unique identifier, which is supplier name. Click on the eye icon to view the logs further. This is our first integration request where supplier was created successfully. No errors here. Let's check our other integration requests. We see a red circle mark indicating an error. Let's expand it. I will switch to Details tab to see more info. Here we can see the error message from Fusion when we sent our second integration request with duplicate supplier name. Now you have seen how OIC monitoring tool helps us troubleshoot issues. Once development is complete, OIC allows us to export our integration for deployment to other environments like production. To do this, go to Deploy tab. Click Create. Give your deployment a name. Click on Create button again. Since my integration is already checked, all I need to do is click on Save button. Now click the three dots and click Export. And I need to click on Export again. This will download a .car file to your computer. You can use this file to import your integration into another OS instance such as production or test environment. Today, you learned all the steps involved to create an integration in Oracle Integration Cloud from scratch. I hope this content was helpful to you. If it did, don't forget to hit that like button to help me and subscribe for more interesting videos. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.